Genesis. Chapter 7. Then Jehovah said to Noah, Come into the ark, you and all your household, for you alone I have seen to be righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean animal you shall take with you 7 pairs, a male and its female, and of the animals that are not clean 2, a male and its female. Also of the birds of heaven, 7 pairs, male and female, to preserve their offspring alive on the surface of all the earth. For in 7 more days I will cause it to rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living being that I have made I will blot out from the surface of the ground. And Noah did according to all that Jehovah commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters came upon the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him went into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of clean animals and of animals that are not clean and of birds and of everything that creeps upon the ground. 2 by 2 they came into the ark to Noah, male and female, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days the waters of the flood came upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that very day all the springs of the great deep burst open, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that very same day Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark. They and every animal according to its kind and all the cattle according to their kind and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth according to its kind and every bird according to its kind every bird, every winged creature. And they went into the ark to Noah, 2 by 2 of all flesh in which was the breath of life. And those who went in, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and Jehovah shut the door behind him. And the flood was on the earth 40 days, and the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. And the waters prevailed and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went about on the surface of the waters. And when the waters had prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, all the high mountains that were under the entire heaven were covered. The waters prevailed 15 cubits higher once the mountains were covered. And all flesh that moved upon the earth expired, birds and cattle and animals and every swarming thing that swarms upon the earth and all mankind. Everything in whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life, of all that was on the dry land, died. Thus he blotted out every living being that was upon the surface of the ground, from man to beast to creeping things to the birds of heaven. And they were blotted out from the earth, and only Noah was left, and those who were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Genesis. Chapter 8. And God remembered Noah and all the animals and all the cattle that were with him in the ark, and God made a wind pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. The springs of the deep and the windows of heaven were also stopped, and the rain from the heavens was restrained. And the waters receded steadily from upon the earth. So at the end of 150 days the waters began to diminish. And the ark came to rest in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters diminished steadily until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. And at the end of 40 days Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent out the raven, and it went out, going to and fro until the waters had dried up from the earth. And he sent out the dove from him to see if the waters had abated from the surface of the ground. But the dove found no resting place for the sole of her foot, so she returned to him to the ark, for the waters were on the surface of the whole earth. And he put out his hand and took her and brought her to himself into the ark. And he waited yet another 7 days, and again he sent out the dove from the ark. And the dove came to him toward evening time, and there in her beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. So Noah knew that the waters had abated from the earth. And he waited yet another 7 days and sent out the dove, and she did not return to him again. And in the 601st year, in the 1st month, the first day of the month, the water was dried up from the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark and saw that now the surface of the ground was dry. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Go forth from the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you of all flesh, birds and cattle, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. So Noah went forth, as well as his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every animal, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that moves upon the earth, went forth from the ark according to their families. And Noah built an altar to Jehovah, and took of every clean beast and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And Jehovah smelled the satisfying fragrance, and Jehovah said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground on account of man, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, nor will I ever again smite everything living as I have done. Throughout all the days that earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Genesis chapter 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And the fear of you and the terror of you shall be upon every animal of the earth and upon every bird of heaven, on everything that creeps on the ground and on all the fish of the sea, into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you, just as I gave you the green herb, so I have given you everything. But flesh with its life, that is, its blood, you shall not eat. And indeed your lifeblood I will require, from every animal I will require it. And from every man's brother, I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God he made man. And you, be fruitful and multiply, abound on the earth and multiply in it. Then God spoke to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I myself now establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. And with every living animal that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every animal of the earth with you, of all that came out of the ark, every animal of the earth. And I establish my covenant with you, that never again will all flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant which I am making between me and you and every living animal that is with you, for perpetual generations. I set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be for a sign of a covenant between me and the earth. And when I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living animal of all flesh, and never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow will be in the clouds, and I will look upon it to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living animal of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. Now the sons of Noah who came forth from the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was spread over. And Noah began to be a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and became drunk. And he uncovered himself inside his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders, and they walked backward and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were turned backward, so that they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and learned what his youngest son had done to him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers. And he said, Blessed be Jehovah, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died.